Have you ever felt like you did everything right, but life still went wrong? You were kind, hardworking, persistent every single day, and yet the results remained silent. Maybe the problem isn't in your actions, but in the beliefs you've been living by. In this video, we're going to explore a completely different perspective, a simple philosophy that could transform the way you face challenges, failures, and even the way you see yourself. If you've been searching for that one spark to reignite your sense of purpose, don't look away. What you've been looking for might just be one powerful idea away. Have you ever felt completely out of place in a room full of people, where you smiled, were genuine, and acted respectfully, yet were met with cold stares or distant glances? And not just once, but repeatedly, as if there was something about you that rubbed others the wrong way, even though you hadn't done anything wrong. That feeling isn't just vague, it can be deeply painful. It leads to that aching question: what did I do wrong? Am I just not good enough? Many people have been there, where someone's silence felt louder than rejection itself. No matter how hard you try, there are people who will seem irritated by your presence or deliberately avoid you without any clear reason. That coldness can feel like a sheet of glass, transparent enough to see them, but impossible to reach through. The more you try to explain or connect, the more alienated and misunderstood you feel. Eventually, you start to question your own worth. Do I really deserve to be disliked this much? But then they realized, often the hostility you receive has nothing to do with who you are. It's a mirror reflecting unhealed wounds, hidden insecurities, or a lack of compassion in someone else's heart. Carl Jung once said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." But sometimes, what irritates others isn't a flaw in you. It's the light within you that they're not yet ready to face. This video not to have you second-guess yourself, but to remind you of one powerful truth. Not everyone who dislikes you does so because you've done something wrong. In fact, there are deep-rooted psychological reasons why people can form silent hostility toward others, even when no real conflict exists. And by understanding those reasons, you can break free from cycles of self-blame and emotional pain. You'll learn how to walk past judgmental glances without losing your kindness or your self-respect. In this journey, we'll share with you 9 surprising psychological reasons behind this kind of quiet resentment. They're subtle but powerful forces that shape the way people react to each other, from hidden envy and value clashes to emotional wounds left unresolved. Each reason is drawn from real-life experience, trusted psychological research, and everyday stories, so you won't just understand them, you'll feel them. And in that understanding, you may just find peace. Reason 1: envy and jealousy, when your light feels too bright for someone else. Here's a paradox. Sometimes what people dislike most about you is exactly what's best about you. Your success? They envy it. Your happiness? It stings. Your confidence and authenticity? They feel threatened. Jealousy is a deeply human emotion, but when left unacknowledged, it mutates. It becomes distance, criticism, or even quiet sabotage. Not because you've done anything wrong, but because your presence exposes a lack or insecurity in someone else. They don't dislike you for your flaws. They resent you for having what they long for but haven't achieved. Think of Regina George in Mean Girls, someone who both admired and tried to undermine Katie Heron, just because Katie shined in a way Regina couldn't control. That story isn't just a teen movie trope. It happens in schools, offices, and even within families. Sometimes, simply being your full, unapologetic self can make you a mirror reflecting someone else's discomfort. The truth is, people who are envious rarely recognize that emotion in themselves. Instead of drawing inspiration or asking questions, they might gossip, avoid you, or subtly try to push you down just to feel taller. But Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." And other people's envy? That's an outside event. So rather than asking, "How can I get everyone to like me?" ask this instead: "How do I stay kind and grounded, even when I'm not accepted?" You're not here to be liked by all. You're here to be fully, radiantly you. Remember this. Light never needs permission to shine. And if someone is bothered by your glow, perhaps it's because they haven't yet found the courage to ignite their own. Reason 2. Miscommunication and misinterpretation. When a single look can build a wall. Not all cracks in relationships are caused by major betrayals. Sometimes, it's the little things, a misunderstood look, a poorly phrased sentence, or silence at the wrong moment, that plant the seed of distance. Communication is the bridge between two hearts, but when that bridge is fragile, unclear, or lacking empathy, even a small breeze can break it. We often forget that humans don't just communicate with words. We speak through our eyes, tone, posture, and even the silences between our sentences. And each person has their own emotional filter. What feels normal to you may feel cold or disrespectful to someone else. A fleeting glance can be mistaken for contempt. A delayed reply might feel like indifference. A poorly timed joke can ignite a misunderstanding that lingers far too long. Just like in a movie The Intern, starring Robert De Niro and Anne Hathaway, there's a scene I've never been able to forget. Jules, Anne Hathaway, overwhelmed and exhausted, believes that Ben, De Niro, has been secretly reporting her every move to their higher-ups. Furious and disillusioned, she loses trust in the older colleague she once admired. But it was all a misunderstanding. Ben, calm and sincere, patiently explains the situation and slowly rebuilds their connection. That moment taught me something profound. Most conflicts don't come from malice. They come from a lack of understanding. We need to learn how to communicate not just with words, but with our hearts. When you feel something's off in your interaction with someone, instead of staying silent or venting to others, try simply asking, "Did I do something that made you uncomfortable?" You might be surprised to find out it was just a tiny misunderstanding all along. Sometimes one kind word, one gentle explanation, is enough to prevent a rift that could last for years. And if the other person still chooses to shut you out, you can rest easy knowing you tried, genuinely, to reach them with goodwill. Many people always believe that the most precious thing between people isn't perfection. It's the willingness to understand and be understood. Reason 3. Diverging values and beliefs. When different worldviews create distance. Once you hit your 40s, you begin to see it clearly. Not everyone shares the same values. And those differences, no matter how unintentional, can make others feel uncomfortable, even alienated. People naturally gravitate toward those who are similar, who live the same way, think the same way, see life through a similar lens. But when you choose a different path, when you decide to swim against the current, you become a mirror that forces others to confront parts of themselves they may not be ready to face. Diverging values, whether about money, work, parenting, freedom, or how to enjoy life, can easily become invisible walls between people who were once inseparable if those differences aren't met with openness and respect. Take a look at the best exotic Marigold Hotel, where a group of British retirees each arrive in India with their own beliefs, pasts, and expectations. Some came to relax, some out of financial necessity, some seeking themselves. At first, they clashed. They couldn't understand each other. But once they started listening instead of judging, something beautiful happened. Friendships blossomed, empathy deepened, and transformation took root. So if someone resents you simply because you've chosen a different lifestyle, remember, it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. It simply means you're brave enough to walk a path not everyone dares to follow. You can't force anyone to adopt your values. But mutual understanding, respect, and open dialogue, those are the keys that help bridge even the widest divide. In the end, you don't need to please everyone. You just need to live in alignment with what you truly believe, because only then will you attract those whose hearts beat in rhythm with your own. Reason 4. The destructive power of gossip, when false words cause real wounds. Here's one of life's cruelest ironies. It's not always the truth that hurts us. It's the lies told too many times that do the real damage. Gossip, no matter how baseless, has the power to reshape how others see you. And when you're at an age where your social identity is well formed, when your reputation affects not only your career, but your family and self-worth, those careless whispers can shake everything you've built. You don't have to do anything wrong to become the victim of someone else's distorted version of your story. Gossip needs no proof. It only needs someone willing to believe the worst over the best. Author Haruki Murakami once wrote, "You don't have to eat a rotten egg to know it's rotten." And sadly, that's how society often works. One false word, and people rush to judgment. No questions asked. As we grow older, we begin to understand. Not everyone celebrates your success or happiness. Sometimes the harshest words come not from truth, but from jealousy, insecurity, or the fear of being outshined by your presence. So what's the solution? Should you explain yourself? Defend your name? Correct every rumor? Not always. Truth may be delayed, but it cannot be buried forever. What you must do is keep living with integrity. Keep doing what's right. Keep holding your dignity, because in the long run, your character will speak louder than any rumor ever could. And if someone chooses to walk away from you based on something they never even asked you about, then perhaps they never truly knew or valued you to begin with. Don't let someone else's lie make you forget who you are. At this age, you don't need everyone to love you. You just need to respect yourself. Reason 5. Personal wounds and projection. When someone else's pain is placed on your shoulders. There are times when you sense a cold stare, a dismissive glance, or a painfully obvious feeling that someone dislikes you, though you've done absolutely nothing wrong. You find yourself confused, asking, "Did I say something out of line? Did I do anything to offend them?" But sometimes the answer has nothing to do with you. The truth is, people often unconsciously project their inner struggles onto others. Someone feeling insecure might become irritated by those who appear confident or accomplished. A person going through a painful divorce might quietly resent the sight of a happy couple. And someone grappling with aging, disoriented by the changes in their own body, might feel a twinge of envy when they see someone else still vibrant, at peace, and full of life. Carl Jung, the renowned psychoanalyst, once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Meaning, if someone hasn't found their own worth, they'll instinctively resent those who have. If you're confident, your presence might unsettle someone who constantly doubts themselves. If you live with integrity, you might irritate someone who has grown used to compromising theirs. And if you can still smile in the face of hardship, you may unintentionally mirror someone's deepest fears and insecurities. What you need to remember is this: you're not responsible for the unhealed emotions of others. At this stage in life, we can't live to please everyone, but we can choose to live in alignment with who we are. When someone dislikes you, ask yourself, what truth about my presence might be reflecting something they aren't ready to face? And then keep moving forward with grace. Because sometimes maturity isn't about winning anyone over. It's about understanding that not all coldness comes with a reason, and not all pain belongs to you. Reason 6. A lack of empathy, when others can't or won't see your heart. Some people don't dislike you out of jealousy. It's not a misunderstanding, nor a clash in opinions. Their coldness, sometimes even cruelty, stems from something far simpler and more painful. They either can't or refuse to put themselves in your shoes. Empathy, the ability to feel someone else's sorrow, joy, or silent struggle, is a gift not everyone has. And as we get older, we often become emotionally closed off. Years of disappointment, unmet expectations, and betrayal can cause people to retreat into logic, shutting out the voice of the heart. Empathy isn't just hearing someone, it's feeling them. It's when someone falls silent, and instead of judging, you wonder, what might they be carrying that they can't say out loud? When someone lashes out, instead of labeling them as difficult, you ask, could they be hurting in a way no one sees? But in daily life, especially beyond our 40s, when everyone is quietly carrying invisible weight, empathy can feel like a luxury few can afford. A psychologist once said, "Some people aren't cruel. They simply never learned how to love with an open heart." When you show emotion, they become uncomfortable because they were never allowed to show theirs. When you choose to forgive, they call it weakness because no one ever taught them the strength it takes to be gentle. And because they don't understand, they judge. Because they can't feel it, they avoid it. And because they lack empathy, they build walls that feel impossible to climb. If you've ever been on the receiving end of coldness simply for being genuine, please know the problem was never you. It's just that your heart is too wide and their world far too small. At this age, we don't need everyone to understand us, but we can choose to never become like them, to never lose our empathy just because life got hard. Reason 7. Silent competition. When the ego feels threatened, distance grows. The older we get, the more delicate and complex our relationships become. In our 20s, competition is loud and direct. We argue, we confront, we fight it out. But after 40, competition becomes subtle. A quiet glance, a passive-aggressive comment, a strange distance you can't quite name. Silent competition doesn't always come from malice. Sometimes, it's simply that someone's ego feels threatened. When you achieve something they once dreamed of, even if you never flaunt it, your very presence can stir their unspoken disappointment. At a recent seminar, I heard a speaker say something that stayed with me. When you shine, two kinds of people will appear. Those who use your light to find their path, and those who resent you because your light hurts their eyes. The truth is, in a grown-up world, where everyone has their own silent regrets and unfulfilled dreams, your success can unintentionally reflect back someone else's dissatisfaction. Let be known, you are not responsible for the shadows that others see in your light. At this age, we can stand tall without apologizing for our growth. And we can continue to walk forward, not to prove anything, but simply because we have earned the right to take up space in the world just as we are. They don't hate you. They're just hurting because you've touched a part of themselves they've never dared to reach. Friends who once laughed with you now avoid your gaze. Colleagues who used to be warm and open become reserved. Your words haven't changed, but the atmosphere has. It's like being quietly, unmistakably exiled. If you've ever felt that way, please don't blame yourself. You did nothing wrong by growing, by striving, by reaching what you truly deserved. The problem isn't your success. It's the discomfort others feel when forced to confront their own lack of confidence. And so, you must learn to stand firmly in your own light, without guilt. To look at others with empathy, but never dim yourself just to make them comfortable. Because as Marcus Aurelius once wrote, never let the soul shrink just to make itself compatible with small minds. Choosing growth is often a lonely path, but it is a worthy one. And those who truly care for you won't be blinded by your light. They'll smile and say, I'm proud of you. Reason number 8. When you live differently, you unintentionally make others feel insecure. After 40, we like to think we've earned a right to live authentically. But life doesn't always make it that simple. The older people get, the more afraid they are of change. So when you, at an age where society expects you to settle, dare to choose a different path, your courage may threaten their sense of safety. In the film Eat, Pray, Love, Elizabeth, after leaving her busy New York life to find herself, is accused by her old friends of being selfish and lost. She just smiles and says, sometimes you have to lose everything to find what you really need. People's judgment of you says nothing about who you are. It says everything about them. Their fear of being left behind. The dreams they buried long ago. The quiet ache of watching you live the life they never dared to choose. When you live honestly, you have nothing to prove. But your honesty becomes a mirror, reflecting what others are still trying to hide. And many will resist. Some will pull away, not because you've harmed them, but because you've awakened something they weren't ready to face. If you are that person, the one who dared to live differently, then let me tell you this. Keep going. You owe no apologies for choosing your own life. You don't have to shrink to fit into someone else's mold. In a world that often praises the familiar and punishes the different, the greatest courage isn't reaching the top. It's walking to your own rhythm, even if that makes you the outsider. You may not be applauded, but you'll be free. Reason number 9. When others feel overshadowed, pride quietly builds distance. After 40, our relationships become more delicate. This is when people start comparing in silence. Who's moving forward? Who's being recognized? Who's left behind? And from that quiet comparison, a subtle but deep wound can form. The pain of feeling unseen. At this age, we all carry emotional bruises. And sometimes, all it takes is a missed acknowledgement or an absent thank you to make someone feel discarded. They don't resent your talent. They're just hurting because they feel like they no longer matter. In The Devil Wears Prada, Miranda delivers a cutting line after her assistant begins to shine. Don't think that just because you're doing well, others will be happy for you. Some people who seem indifferent are actually struggling with the fear of being left behind. They retreat, not out of hatred, but from the pain of not feeling seen. So what can we do? Learn to recognize the efforts of those around you, genuinely. A well-timed thank you, a warm glance, a sincere compliment. Sometimes, that's all it takes to keep a relationship from breaking. But also understand this. Other people's pain isn't always your fault. You cannot live just to make everyone comfortable. But you can live with compassion. And above all, never let your light dim just because others aren't ready to face their own shadows. As we pass through the blazing years of youth, we begin to learn. Not everyone will like you, and that's okay. What's truly terrifying is molding yourself into someone you're not, just to win their approval, and losing yourself in the process. People used to wonder what they've done wrong. Why some people turn cold, even when there was nothing but kind. But after years of reflection, they realized that quiet hostility often comes from their own unhealed wounds. It was never about me. Some people dislike you because you're living your truth. Some resent you because you've done what they haven't dared to try. Some feel small when you remain steady in a storm. And some envy your calm because inside them is a chaos they can't name. But here's what you need to know. You don't have to shrink yourself to make others feel bigger. You don't need to dim your inner light just because it's too bright for someone else. Because those who truly see you, those who love you, will never ask you to be less just to fit into their world. The philosopher Epictetus once said, "Be more concerned with being good than being thought good. Live honestly. Stay kind. Set boundaries when needed. That's how you move through this world with your soul intact. Sometimes you'll lose people, but you'll keep your peace. And in time, you'll see, people may not like you, but they can't take your self-worth unless you give it to them. So please, keep being real. Keep loving. Keep letting go of the judgments that don't belong to you. Because somewhere out there, someone is quietly watching you and silently thanking you for having the courage to live as you are. If you've ever felt isolated, misunderstood, or pushed away for simply being yourself, share your story below. Your words might be the bridge someone else needs to feel seen and less alone. And if this video touched you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us as we continue this journey of healing, understanding, and becoming whole. Thank you for being here, quietly but deeply.